Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't already know, today was the day for the Battlefield 6 reveal. They showed off the multiplayer, they showed off Battle Royale, classes, and pretty much everything in between. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get invited to the event. Yeah, I know. But fortunately, I was home. I got to stream the event. A lot of you guys watched it with me. I got some videos out on it. And on top of all of that, we can do the normal thing that we do over here, which is check out what other people think about things. And I can give you my opinion on it. And I was kind of waiting for someone to post a video with their opinion. And the very first one that I saw was Level Cap Gaming, someone who I've actually watched Battlefield videos of before. So I was excited to kind of see what he thought of it and his opinions. And then I can kind of ride off of that and see, based off of what I saw, if it matches and aligns with what his gameplay opinions actually were. So let's dive in and see what he says.
Level Cap here, and I got to play Battlefield 6 early at the multiplayer reveal event.
What I will say is when I first saw Modern Warfare 2019 gameplay, there was this level of shock with how it looked, with how the movement felt, with how the guns looked, and this game, I immediately had that upon seeing it.
And today I get to show off some of my gameplay and impressions. First things first, this is a sponsored video. EA flew me out to a capture event.
Side note, a lot of people say that I've got paid in the past to go to Call of Duty events. I never have. And to my knowledge, nobody has. But I think almost all of EA's events are paid for. You have to sign a contract, you have to do a certain amount of videos or streams, and then you go and you can talk about it. Generally, they allow you to say whatever you want, but that's a big difference between Battlefield and Call of Duty that a lot of people don't know.
Play the game early, and I got to chat it up with some of the devs and talk about game design. It was a ridiculously massive event with hundreds of content creators and producers talking about the game. I've probably been to 100 or so different game reveal events, but this one was one of the largest. Now, before I get into some of the details,
in comparison, it kind of looks like a Call of Duty Next.
I think it's important to keep in mind that I was able to play the game so far at the time of making this video for about 4 hours, and I played on a limited selection of maps and modes. So there's simply no way that I could really weigh in on what the full game will offer because I only got to play a slice of it. In fact, one of the
This Brooklyn map looks unbelievably good.
Modes that the devs were hyping up, but we didn't get to play yet, is called Escalation, which apparently plays a lot like Conquest, but with a shrinking number of objectives that eventually focus the combat really crazy.
And apparently this Escalation mode is the one that they're like the most proud of because it finishes in like this crescendo of gameplay, but we don't really know what it is as of yet.
I heard several devs say it was actually their favorite mode to play in the game, but sadly we didn't get to play it at the event yet. So what did I get to play so far? Well, a lot of our play sessions took place on 2 main maps, Siege of Cairo and Liberation Peak.
So those are the bigger maps.
We cycled through the various game modes from Conquest to break through to smaller modes like Squad Deathmatch. Siege of Cairo is definitely going to be a fan favorite. A densely packed...
This is one of the ones. It's Brooklyn, and then this one that I'm
urban environment with stunning visuals and truly intense destruction. It brings in vibes from, say, Strike at Kharkiv, but pushes it so much further than those classic maps. I played this one quite a bit on Conquest and Breakthrough. Its roads and back alleys become the major choke points of the map. Apartments lining the streets can provide elevated shooting positions, and getting into a tank on this map can be absolutely devastating. The facades and walls of most buildings can be blown out, so you gotta be careful when taking cover from a tank.
So one of my biggest complaints with Battlefield, and it's one thing that I am worried about after everything that I've seen, is vehicles, right? I'm a Call of Duty player, and I love the way Battlefield plays, and I love some of the moments that vehicles cause. However, when vehicles become the biggest thing and be-all, end-all, I get frustrated. That's why I didn't enjoy playing Ground War in Modern Warfare 2019 as much, is because I just got so frustrated with vehicles. But if balanced correctly, and if the maps are good enough, they can be really, really good. And I like that they're doing these smaller team modes where if I get frustrated with the tanks, for example, I can just be like, okay, let's go in these smaller maps. Let's just go on an 8v8 mode, and I don't have to worry about that.
As your cover may not actually be tank proof. I was really impressed with this map. It's absolutely going to be a favorite
shot.
for infantry combat and anyone who can get into a tank or APC on it. It's an excellent showcase of Battlefield's new destruction fidelity. Detailed debris and environmental props and pieces are flying through the air all over the
It's
place.
wild.
It's kind of on another level. From a mechanical standpoint, the destruction feels very similar to some of the previous games where you can knock out walls and eventually collapse structures. But visually, it's just dialed way up, making the destruction feel significantly more realistic. And it has the added effect of making the whole
Holy
game
tank.
feel more real. When a stray shell hits a building and it blows
Holy
out the
people.
wall incredibly realistically, and tons of smoke and debris and particle effects hit the map, it just feels more real. In fact, the particles in Battlefield 6 seem to linger longer and create more of a haze and atmosphere of combat. Now, the map Liberation Peak is a little more open.
gonna say, this
Another
looks so
beautifully
wide
rendered
open.
map. It offers a more sniper
And every gameplay I've seen on this mainly features like air combat. Like either you're fighting a helicopter or you're in the helicopter.
friendly habitat
Or
with
plane.
longer sight lines and smaller cobblestone buildings. I didn't play this one on Conquest as much as I would have liked to, but on Breakthrough it provided some great choke points and massive elevation changes. Now, if you watched the multiplayer reveal trailer before watching this video, then you'll have seen some of the other maps that are coming in the game, including a remake of Operation Firestorm, which I couldn't be more excited to play. It even further cements Battlefield 6 as a spiritual successor to Battlefield 3 in my mind. And in general, Battlefield 6's visuals are
Shotgun
no
looks
slouch.
unreal.
Luckily, I don't really have to tell you how good the game looks. You can just watch the gameplay and see for yourself. But the performance while playing also felt quite stable. I wasn't tracking my FPS
So
numbers.
this is the thing, right? Is all of the consoles or specifically PCs that they're playing on are dialed in for this game. It is going to be a different story when you get it on your PC or your console. It's just gonna be different. So as far as performance of the game, you can't use an event like this to judge it. You just can't.
While I played, but for a build that's still a few months out, I wasn't experiencing any
That's a good
noticeable
point, too. This
dips
is an
or
older build of
struggles,
the game
which
as
is
well.
very encouraging for the overall optimization. And actually, on that note, I was able to chat with some of the devs on the project who discussed the different approach to making Battlefield 6, which involved getting the game to a playable state from the earliest possible point, and then developing the game while simultaneously testing it in engine with every new feature.
Which is the
and
Battlefield Labs
addition.
technique.
This not only helped them figure out some of the performance stuff sooner, but it also helped
This
them
map,
dial in
Gibraltar,
gameplay mechanics
looks
much earlier and get more
unbelievable.
time to refine them. It seems like this new approach is spearheaded by some of the new
Like
leadership
this
on the
mountain
project.
off to his top left.
Now, let's talk about the feeling of the game. Just like any Battlefield title, this is designed to be accessible from the start. And jumping in, I felt right at home. Player movement, aiming, shooting, the user interface, it all felt familiar, but also updated. In fact, David Sirlin spoke at the event about redoing the weapon system from the ground up with this game to perfect the tech.
So I talked about it on Ink Slasher, but when the way that weapons work in this game is you have your individual class. So your 4 classes, your recon, your support, everything like that. And then your weapons, you can use them on any class. And each weapon, basically just say it has 100 pounds of attachments that you can put on it. It's not 100 pounds, but it's just a score out of 100, the pick 100 system. And then each attachment, based off of the type of attachment, will be a specific weight. And that fills up your 100 slots. It's like Gunsmith with numbers associated with it instead of just having a maximum amount of attachments. It's a maximum amount of weight, which is an interesting system. And I think it's very simple to understand.
But they made sure to make it feel like a Battlefield game nonetheless. So on the surface, it might feel like you're just playing a slightly updated weapon system for a Battlefield game, but under the hood, it is completely different. Gun recoil felt quite manageable, headshots are still king, and this game doesn't put giant muzzle flash in front of your face obstructing your targets during a firefight, which I appreciate.
I was worried about that. Because that's one of the things that ruined Modern Warfare 2 was just this muzzle flash or smoke coming out of your weapon that looks horrible. And a game like Battlefield that looks this pretty sometimes tries to do that to just be aesthetically pleasing, and it ruins the gameplay.
Battlefield keeping the firefights, well, visible. The sound design is still peak DICE weapon audio. The rest of
Yeah,
the
you can tell
gameplay
that by
audio
just
also
listening to this.
sounded great from what I could hear, but I am much more interested to hear this game when I'm not in a giant room full of shouting content creators. Now, a much appreciated quality of life update is the weapon customization
This is what I was
system.
talking about.
Weapons have a point system now where each gun has an allotment of attachment points that can't be exceeded. Though this allotment seems to be quite generous, allowing you to replace barrels,
Yeah, it seems to be
muzzles,
like-
magazines, optic, lasers, anything
one's
you could
30,
think of, you can more or
35,
less
okay.
swap it out on your gun. It's a nice system, but what I actually really liked about it was that it had stats. The game has the actual weapon data on display next to the
Damage?
weapon.
Does it
When you
have-
hit the C button, it'll actually expand
25,
the
yeah.
data readout to show
Yeah,
how
that's
many
really good.
milliseconds an attachment adds to your ADS time. This is
That's
so much
amazing.
nicer than the ambiguous bars showing.
So I was told years ago, it was during Infinite Warfare, that one of the hardest things to do in the games is actually the UI. And that is why there's been so many problems with them displaying stats correctly with Call of Duty weapons, is they just don't have anyone that's really good at UI. And it appears as though they may have found someone for Battlefield 6.
An accuracy
Also, this
value
firing
changing,
range
but not
looks
really
sweet.
understanding what it was doing. Previously, players had to basically data mine the weapon data and then put it into spreadsheets so that they could better understand how weapon
Decent amount of
attachments
recoil, but I
and
believe that's an
weapon
SMG,
mechanics
so.
actually worked. Now, a lot of that can be understood by just looking at the user interface. And it's not overwhelming, and it seems fairly straightforward where even the average user could look at the stats and understand more or less what kind of attachments they might want. Now, class-wise, I had a chance to play with all the classes, test out all the weapons, and even try out the open weapon system. It's hard to get too deep in the feedback after only 4 hours of playing, but I do think I still prefer a closed weapon system. But nonetheless, classes are still one of those things where I feel like
I don't think they're going to budge on that. I think this, like, after seeing this game markets to such a wider variety of players than a normal Battlefield game does, because they have like the portal mode, because they have the team deathmatch, because they have the squad mode, because it's not just conquest and vehicles. I think they're going to make that class system super accessible, because I think they just want as many people playing it as possible, and the game's good enough, or at least looks good enough, where that is going to work.
I need to spend a lot more time with them before I have a good idea on their overall balance. There are a few interesting changes to the class fundamentals though. Support is interesting in that it can now heal and rearm you through its basic supply crate,
yeah, here's the,
you're kind of the go.
This is one thing I didn't talk about on Ink Slasher, is these are like the 3 levels. So at level 0, you field sustainment, distribute health packs to teammates when directly interact with you. Reviving down teammate begins your own health regeneration. Improve stats for all defensive gadgets. And then this is the big one. Press 6, so you'll earn this one, to act as a mobile supply bag for 10 seconds. Revive teammates in 2.5 seconds. So nothing crazy there. But I believe one of the assault ones, for example, gives you a UAV. So it's like a kill streak almost.
To for all of your squad's needs. The assault class is quite powerful in that it can carry 2 primary weapons.
Huge.
I gotta say, having a shotgun for close quarters or a DMR for ranged engagements is actually kind of awesome. It makes you super flexible. Recon is still quite useful for spotting, spawning on spawn beacons, having C4 to blow up vehicles or take down buildings. It's still a great class. The Engineer, of course, comes with its repair tool and rocket launchers, which are very satisfying to use against tanks. The classes more or less fit their classic roles with just a few tweaks here and there, but there's a lot more depth to them that I don't think was
One thing that he didn't mention is that each class has its own weapon that goes and gives you a bonus to it. I think Recon, for example, allows you to like hold your breath longer or something like that. It might even be to spot people. Actually, that might be something else, but things along those lines. So it incentivizes you to use those specific style or type of weapons with that class.
unlocked in the demo that we were playing. There's a whole class upgrade system that increases your in-round abilities that I didn't get to explore as much as I would like to either. But I came away from my play session today impressed and even more excited about the game than I had been before I played it, which is great. That means DICE is on the right path, and they need a win here, and I think Battlefield 6 is absolutely going to give it to them. I spent a lot of the day teamed up with Drewski, Big Fry, and Karmika in a squad. It felt like the good old times, PTFOing, calling out to each other, reviving, trying to work together as a squad, and outflank and outsmart our opponents. It plays like a Battlefield game. We can do all the...
Also, are you guys noticing that when he hits shots, it drops the damage numbers? It shows how much you're hitting for. I really like that.
Classic things that we want to do in a Battlefield game, but it is in a much more modern and fresh feeling package. Now, all that said, I've truly only played such a small slice of the game. It's impossible to weigh in on what the total experience is going to be like. In fact, nobody can do that at this point. But it's left me extremely excited and eager to see what else DICE has in store. What I've played so far is really good, so I can only hope that what I haven't played is also good. The next few months leading up to launch are going to be fun, and I can't wait to get into the open beta at home and really put this...
Yeah, so pretty much everyone's going to play it. If you've signed up for the labs, you're going to have access on the 7th to the open beta, which is awesome. You don't need to pre-order the game. I think that's one of the smartest moves that they've done. Although having a 2-weekend beta, as we've seen with Call of Duty, sometimes people get sick of the game, and that is a worry that I have, even if Black Ops 7 does it this year. Like, am I going to just be like, I've experienced it all by the end of the beta? With only 9 maps at launch, I'm curious to see how many they throw in the beta.
Game through its paces. Let me know your thoughts on what you've seen from Battlefield 6 so far. And up next, check out my live stream where I'll be playing the game with hopefully some additional maps and content. As always, guys, thank you.
So yeah, that's what you can expect to see. And as far as what to expect moving forward, on the 7th, you have the open beta, and that goes for 2 weekends, back-to-back weekends. After that, I'm willing to bet we'll probably get a couple community updates, as well as a deep dive by the developers in 2 regions. Number 1, the campaign, and number 2, the battle royale. Both of which they said that they're going to address closer to launch. But one thing I'm worried about is at this reveal, they didn't show much for the campaign. It was like a 15-second trailer, and there's rumors that they are having problems with the development of that campaign. So I look forward to hearing more about it, but I wonder, and I've said this for a while, I wonder if they're going to do like a seasonal story where campaign missions drop season after season, which I personally would love, but it might be bad for launch. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what goes on with that. But as far as initial impressions, number 1, looks really good. Gameplay looks smooth, gameplay looks fast, gameplay looks frenetic, and we're only going to have to wait a couple days, really a week, to get our hands on the actual game, which that's a big plus in my book. So let me know what you're thinking of it down in the comments. If you like what you're seeing on the channel, these type of reactions, videos to what's just going on in gaming, be sure to subscribe, turn notifications on. I appreciate the support on the channel lately, guys. You guys have been amazing. Subscribe. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. Until next time, peace.